Gina Rabai is a human rights activist joining us from Beirut, and we have Saad Nimr, professor of political science at Birzeit University, joining us from occupied Ramallah. Well, I'd like to welcome you both. And Gina Rabai, let me first start with you, and let's focus on this, what was supposed to be a resolution at the UN, which was not to be. It came out to be just a statement, basically in opposing what is known to be a violation of international law, and that is the building of settlements. Why is it that the UN did not opt for a UN resolution, which would be obviously more binding than just an opposition?
Well, hello to you first, and greetings to all your viewers. These facts today raise the role of the United Nations in the issue of the Palestinian cause as a whole and the humanitarian files. The United Nations has never been actually concerned with protecting the rights of the Palestinian people or any vulnerable people in general, despite the legislations, covenants, the international agreements concerned with human rights and regulating rules of military conflicts. The implementation of which is not mandatory, and violating them is not considered a reason for tangible accountability, unlike the consequences of violating economic and security agreements. Firstly, because the member states of the Security Council give priority to political, economic, and security interests over human rights interests. And secondly, because the colonial states have the final say in the Security Council. And here I'm not talking about the veto right, but about the influence of the colonial states, especially the United States of America, on the decision of other countries, which sold their sovereignty in foreign decisions to the USA. Today, as always, Israel finds itself internationally protected, or at least not held accountable for its crimes. The settlement expansion project is not new, but it is implemented just whenever Israel finds the conditions allowing it to do so. And it is very well known that the major Israeli project is the expansion from the borders of the Nile River in Egypt to the borders of the Euphrates River in Iraq. And Israel will never be deterred from implementing that with international statements, neither with international resolutions. Rather, what deters it is force and only force. Just 2 days ago, Israel targeted Parsusa region in Syria with airstrikes, taking advantage of the humanitarian crisis that Syria is facing after the earthquake, and Syria's need to put its capabilities in the service of facing the consequences of the earthquake. So Israel intensified the humanitarian crisis there, and Syria did file a complaint to the United Nations, but Israel would never have committed the crime in the first place. In the first place, had it not been for its prior knowledge that it would not be held accountable internationally. Indeed, Syria did not find any response to its complaint. So in conclusion, in general, the failure to respond to the denunciation presented by Hamas is very much expected, especially that the United States of America classifies Hamas as a terrorist organization, and other countries that comply with the USA, with USA's decisions in general, join it in this classification. So putting a radical end to the settlement crime and all the Israeli aggressions can be achieved either by a major liberation war or by cutting off America's lifeline, so to speak, of Israel.
Okay. Saad Nimr, I'm not too sure how to characterize what has happened, because it's not anything new. And we know that the UN is being used as a political ploy, in a sense, or a tool in order to show maybe that something maybe is being done. But really, facts on the ground speak for themselves, as we have seen throughout the years and decades. So putting the UN aside, even debating about it, I think would be futile. I don't know if you agree or not. In order to figure out a solution to stop, especially this current administration, from pursuing its expansion of settlements, which there were 9 that were announced. They may stop now, but they're still going to move forward with it. Are we looking at just Palestinians that have to create the conditions to stop them from expanding?
Okay, good afternoon for you and your viewers, and also your guest from Beirut. Well, in reality, it's quite obvious what happened in the United States, in United Nations yesterday. It was well, coming out with a statement rather than a resolution to condemn Israel for its settlements. It was, on the other hand, I would say that Hamas is not only criticizing the United Nations, but it is, in a way, implicitly, they are also criticizing the Palestinian Authority, because in the last few days there was a kind of a marathonic talks between United States, Israel, Emirates, and the Palestinian Authority in order to deter the Emirates from getting to the United Nations Security Council resolution, which condemned Israel and asking Israel to stop all kind of settlements, in a resolution by the United Nations. And the Americans, they were, threatening at the beginning to use the veto, and that will put them really in a very embarrassing kind of situation, especially that they are being criticizing also the Israeli administration for its settlements and the expansion of settlements and building new settlements. However, what's going on now, it's yes, we are all the time as Palestinians, we are alone, apart from all those who are, in support of us around the region and in the world. But generally speaking, in the international community, definitely we are not waiting from the international community to do anything for the Palestinian. And the only way for the Palestinian to start with, number one, is to resist this occupation, to resist this colonial racist state, and to sorry, to show the settlers that they can't get away with any action that they are taking against the Palestinians. So we need to enforce the resistance, the Palestinian resistance,
Right.
and to increase it to be all over the West Bank at this time.
Okay, very well. Thank you very much. Let me thank our guests, Gina Rabai, their activist and political analyst from Beirut, and Said Nemr. We do appreciate your comments from Occupied Ramallah. With that, we come to an end for this edition of the News Review. Thanks for tuning in.